What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex. In this video, I want to talk about Persona 6 and the Game Awards. Is it a match made in heaven? Is it going to happen? Now, I wanted to do this before I made the video, which came out a few days on the channel, about the Persona 6 rumors, going into localization, all that jazz. And, I feel like those rumors could only help the cause, although they might not matter depending on who you talk to. So those rumors, for those that didn't know, right, the rumor is that the game is in the final basically step of development in terms of localization, and we know, you could do research just by googling it, really. Localization does not take all that long. If it's true, the game is probably only a year or so out, and at least that's in my personal opinion. I've been wanting Persona 6, I think, to come out in 2025 for a while. Maybe it slips to 2026, but you know what? It's still not that far away. And then you have the Game Awards, and you have, okay, well, when are you going to announce it? Now, these rumors of, I guess, Persona 6 rumors in general go back a very long time, but for a while, there was always the buildup that this game was supposed to get announced like years ago, right? That infamous rumor that, I forget, was a Tokyo Game Show, or it was somewhere, and the rumor was like it was going to appear there, and then they kind of pulled it last minute, and that was, I think, like 2+ years ago. So if that was true, and granted, like, that rumor doesn't look great because it didn't happen, right? And you don't have any way to verify that the rumor actually was true there. But if the game was in somewhat stage, right, to be ready to be announced years ago, then it could be announced at any point over the last couple of years. Now, the big thing for me, you could say, okay, well, Alex, they've had an insane year, right? Atlas, Persona 3 Reload, Shin Megami. They've had, obviously, Metaphor that just came out. Depends on how you look at it, because you could look at those games as something that, because the year has been so big, you wouldn't want to do like one more thing with a Persona. You could also look at them, honestly, as roadblocks. Not bad roadblocks. I'm finally making my way through Metaphor now. It took me a while, but I'm getting there, and I think it's a phenomenal game. These are great games, but these are games that, were in the way that arguably, yeah, you weren't going to announce Persona 6 because you had all of these games coming. Specifically, I would say Metaphor, right? Metaphor was their big game. It wasn't a remake. I guess Shin Megami falls in the same kind of category, but Metaphor, brand new IP, right? So there was a lot kind of going for it, and kind of original about it as opposed to the others. But now it's out. And actually, it being nominated for as many things as it is at the Game Awards, maybe that helps the cause, right? Where it's like, hey, a game, it's not the same development studio, but it is the same, like, overall company. Hey, from the makers of Metaphor, or however you want to word it, right? We have an announcement to make, and it's Persona 6. I don't know. I just feel a couple of those things are kind of going Persona 6's way, where you have the roadblocks removed. Like, there's nothing else coming out besides, I guess, okay, well, I should probably stop myself there, because technically there's that Persona 5X, right, the mobile game, and in the rumor we talked about a few days ago with the localization, same person did actually say in that thread that they believe that P5X, we'll just say that, kind of keep it short, right, they believe that that game is actually more likely to be at the Game Awards than Persona 6. Now, in my opinion, you're actually looking at like two completely different tiers of announcements. And that's another thing I think Persona, or might have, that could help it. I've talked about over the last week or so, as I've done these videos, what I'm trying to do is pick a couple of like each tier. So like when I did Resident Evil 9, I really think Resident Evil 9 could be one of the biggest things that you see at the Game Awards. I also think Persona 6, when I think of the biggest tier, or the highest tier, right, and you go back to previous years, they're always kind of the games that are like 2+ years away, right? They're the games that are a bit further out, but they're the ones you don't necessarily see coming. Like when you do the Mass Effect reveal, like that was huge. That was really, really big. Persona, I don't want to get into like comparing every single game, Jeff has ever announced at the Game Awards, but Persona, I feel, fits that highest tier with Resident Evil, and with maybe a few other games for sure, but I think that's the highest tier. So, when I'm trying to come up with it, I think Persona, lands there. Now, that might not matter, right? Jeff might just get, 30 announcements and they land where they land, but there's always a couple big ones. Then there's like the tier down, then there's the tier down, the tier down. You also have, like I said, all of these games removed, but you do have Metaphor with all the critical, reception, and then what better way to, in a way, I guess, capitalize on it, right, than say, hey, you love loved Metaphor, and hey, Metaphor is winning all these awards. Look how many awards Metaphor's won so far. Look, we're also announcing Persona 6. It could be Atlus's night. I guess that's kind of the picture I'm trying to paint. And in terms of like recency or like which game is the closest, right? Like just in that kind of way, Persona 6 also makes sense. You know, I know I just said like sometimes he'll announce games 3, 4, 5 years out. Persona 6 wouldn't be that. And I mean, that could be, again, maybe a negative to it or a positive. Also, you could say, well, maybe they would want to do it at a Tokyo Game Show. Maybe they would want to do it on their own. Maybe they would want to hand it off to Xbox. You know, I believe Xbox is where they kind of announced all of I think it was there, right? Where they did Persona 3 and Tactica and a lot of other stuff. So, you know, they have a history with Xbox. Maybe they do it there. You know, for Jeff Keighley to do it, maybe that doesn't make sense. And that's a fair argument. I just think Persona 6, the next mainline installment on the big stage, coming out after or coming off of, you know, all of the success that Atlus has had this year. And then again, if you take a look or you want to believe the rumors of the last little while. Now, I would say regardless of the localization thing or not, I do think Persona 6 is close. I feel like you're getting it by 2026, like sometime in 2026 at the latest. So I don't know. Like I said, I mean, it's not 3, 4, 5 years out, but maybe Jeff can squeeze it in and say, hey, here's a game. It's not coming out next year, but 2 years, and here's a, you know, a world reveal or a world premiere, whatever he calls it, for the game. I don't know. It's on my list of games that, as I've said before, not expecting any of these that's going to just set me up for disappointment, but I'm trying to look at games that make a lot of sense, games that I think fit kind of set criteria, and I do think Persona 6 checks a lot of boxes that it would make sense to appear there. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.